Years.
Hello everybody, welcome to Greg's Vintage Workshop, where I'm restoring history one piece at a time. So today it's Sunday, and I'm not making a part 2 to the Emerson C-255 today, because I haven't made a whole lot of progress. This video mainly is just because I wanted to get something out to you guys and tell you why I haven't gotten a whole lot of progress done. So it's been kind of an interesting week. Most of you probably don't know, but I moved from North Carolina to Illinois 2 years ago, about 2.5 years ago. And one of the reasons I did was because my mother is in a nursing home up here, and I tried to take care of a lot of her affairs for her. It was difficult to do from North Carolina. I had retired when I was in North Carolina, and then since I moved back up here, I've gone back to work for the company I retired from, but I work out of a home office now instead of out of the main facility that was down there. So it got me moved up here so I can help with those sorts of things. Well, one of the things that we had done when we moved up here, when she was put in the nursing home, all of her personal belongings and such from her apartment, we had been renting a storage facility for. And when I moved up here and we got the house we're in that has the nice big basement that a lot of my workshop is in, we had moved all of her stuff into my basement so that we could quit renting the storage facility. So most of that was all in cardboard boxes, and there were new cardboard boxes at the time, but my basement is a little damp at times, and if we get really hard rainfall, it will I'll get water in on the floor. And I don't have a sump pump, which I was actually planning on putting one in this past winter, but it never froze hard enough for me to feel good about digging a big hole in my basement floor. So that got put on hold. But my wife and I decided that we needed to get the cardboard boxes off of the cement floor. A few of them had got wet last year when we had taken in some water. And so we had gone and bought a lot of rubber totes, plastic totes. And so this past week we went through a lot of boxes, probably 30 boxes, and consolidated them into tubs and got rid of a lot of stuff as well. But so that took a lot of my time. So I didn't really have any time in the evenings to work on the Emerson much. But I did get that mainly accomplished. We're not exactly where we want to be with it yet, but at least I've got all of the stuff that was in the cardboard on the floor in rubber totes now, or plastic totes. So if I do get any water this year, which I'm sure I will, at least they won't be getting wet. So that was one project. That was a big project. Not too easy lifting and carrying those boxes around. And then yesterday, I worked on my wife's car. It's a 2008 Pontiac Vibe that about 1.5 years ago, we were driving downtown Kewanee here, and a young girl who was 16, we were coming through an intersection, and she didn't pay attention that she didn't have the light, and she turned into me. Now I slammed my brakes on. It wasn't a tremendously violent hit, but it was a sufficient hit that on the driver's side headlight was bashed in. Of course the fender was bashed in, and the bumper cover was bashed in. Luckily the hood didn't get damaged, and the fender itself mainly was up front, the damage. And so I had never fixed that. The car only has liability on it. I did get money from her insurance for it, and we put some of that aside to get some parts. But as a lot of things go, a lot of that didn't go towards the repair of the car. So they hadn't been repaired. So yesterday we had a beautiful day, and I decided that I was going to go out there and work on the car. So I did, and I'll put some pictures on here. I don't have the befores, but it was crumpled pretty good on the driver's side. But I managed to get the metal straightened out very reasonably well in the fender. The bumper cover is plastic, rubber, whatever that compound is, and I managed to use a heat gun and straighten it out. And where it was cracked, I bought some of that heavy outdoor use Gorilla Tape. I was so impressed with the Gorilla Tape that came on a package that Bill, the old 64 Goat, sent me. I'd never used it before. I bought some of that and put on some of the broken pieces of the front bumper cover fascia. It actually turned out pretty good. And then I had purchased a bra for the car, and once I got everything straightened out using a tree I had in my front yard and a ratchet strap and hammer and pry bars, I got everything pretty straightened out, enough that I could actually get the new headlight in place without putting any of the screws in a bind. I had to make sure that I had everything in position so that I didn't want anything in a bind, because otherwise you hit a bump or something and it snaps the ear off the headlight. So I was real happy. It was a lot of that I couldn't tell what it was supposed to be because it was deformed enough that I had to put it the way I thought it needed to be. And Moose just decided he's going to jump in my lap. Say hi to the camera, Moose. And so anyway, it took me about 6 hours, but I got the car done, and it actually looks really good. If you didn't know that it had been in a wreck, you would not know that it had been in a wreck. So I managed to get it done with just a new headlight and some Gorilla Tape and just good old-fashioned hard work. But it turned out really well, and I'm real happy with it. And like I said, I'll have a couple of pictures here that I'll show you what it looks like now. I unfortunately didn't take pictures prior. I didn't think I was going to be talking about it on a video when I was doing it yesterday. I was trying to get it done. But I'm telling you, doing a lot of that physical type work like that, I'm not used to. At my age, it's getting harder and harder. And man, I feel it in my shoulders, and I feel it in my back and my hands today. So I'm not going to do much today. I just decided I would get this video together and send out to you guys. So I appreciate the comments that I had gotten on the Emerson CF-255. The interesting thing, and a lot of you saw it, was that it has a resistance line cord. There were 3 leads in there, one specifically for the filament voltages for the 2 tubes, and another lead for the pilot lamp. So it was an interesting cord. I've never heard of that before. I hadn't seen it before, and I saw it in the schematic. At the time that I made part 1, I didn't physically have the schematic. I got it about a day or two after I made part 1, and that's when I saw that it had this resistant line cord. So I have seen some videos on it and ways that I can eliminate it, because obviously I'm not going to use that cord, and I'm not thrilled with the idea of the design that they had, that the cord actually has resistor in it, a wire wound over an asbestos core. So that's going to go away. But that being said, the way I'm going to fix it is going to be with a combination capacitor and a resistor that I have to locate inside the chassis. And if you guys remember, the chassis is very small inside, so I'm going to have to mount a couple of terminal strips I'm going to have to decide how I'm going to run the pieces so everything fits. And it's going to be very tight. It's going to be very tight. I'm not going to kid you there. So that's going to take me a little bit of time to figure out exactly how I want to do the layout. I've already got the schematic in my head that I'm planning on doing, but I'm going to lay that out as well. And we'll get going on it. I've already got about 7 partial videos together for part 2 that I'll be, editing and tying all together for part 2. Part of which was the detector coil and the antenna coil that I removed in order to re-wax them. I re-waxed the detector coil and measured it afterwards, and everything was hunky-dory and fine with it. Turned out well. I re-waxed the antenna coil, and after I re-waxed the antenna coil, one of them went open. So I wound up having to unwax the antenna coil and proceed to try and find where the open was, which the particular coil had that green rot disease, and I wound up having to rewind it twice. But I'm not going to get into that now with you guys, because you'll see it in part 2. But so I did some of that last week. That's where that is right now. But yeah, I figured I'd get a video out today, a quick one. This one won't even be done with shotcut, which is what I've been using. This one will be just KineMaster on my phone camera, because that's down and dirty easy, and what I've been using prior to getting on shotcut a couple months ago. So I'll take you off of my camera support right now and just give you a quick shot of my basement and the area where I've been working on it, take care of my mother's stuff. What I want to do is get that side kind of opened up, give me a little bit more room down here, and then I'll show you the Emerson and the way it's sitting right now and part of my dilemma. So anyway, let me do that. I'll take you off here in a second, and I'll be right back. Okay, so here we are on the workbench, and you see some of my scribbly scratch schematic tracing type things that I put together for the Emerson, as well as all my schematics and stuff. And I got some terminal strips out here that I gotta figure out how I'm gonna mount everything, but underneath here is the radio. So as you can see how tiny this thing is, and I've removed all of the caps and such from it. There's the pile of caps back here, and here's the electrolytic that mounted here, and then I've got a new cap that's got to go in there. But along with the cap, I got resistor here. That's got one of those got to fit in there, and of course all the other caps and resistors. There aren't many resistors in here. Got this one here, and there's another one underneath there. I got to figure out, and as you can see, there's not much real estate to mount terminal strips. So trying to figure out the layout, and that's going to be interesting. So I've got to get that figured out. We'll get it. Keep my cats out of everything here. Okay. So now I'll walk over to the other section of the basement, and there's some new totes that I purchased that we haven't used yet. And then over here is the area that we've been trying to get cleaned out. I got a little room in here. That's a little room, and that's completely full of my mother's stuff, and then all this is her stuff, all except that radio right there, the RCA, which I got to get on. And like I said, I've moved stuff back in the way, but we got plastic totes everywhere that we had cardboard boxes, and nothing sitting on the floor as far as cardboard now, but we still got a lot of stuff that we got to get cleaned out. So that's what we were working on. It was so much more in there now, like I said, because we consolidated like 30 boxes. But that's that piece. So overall, the workshop's in kind of a disarray right now because of working through all that stuff and moving stuff around. And so that's basically it. It's been kind of a busy week and kind of a strange week because doing a bunch of stuff that I typically don't do a whole lot of that, like working on the car or working on consolidating boxes. And of course then when you do that, you got a ton of boxes that you got to get rid of. And we have a pickup around here where they come by and we'll pick it up, but you have to have them broken down. So I had a lot of boxes to break down and bundle so that we'll take them. So there's a lot of work involved. But I thought I'd get this quick flap out here just so you guys knew I was still around. And we're working on getting this radio part 2 completed. I don't want to make it too long, as I stated before. So when I have enough on there that I think it's about right, what I'd like to be able to have is the caps and resistors in the chassis before I put out part 2. So that's kind of what I'm going to wait for. But for now, let's go ahead and end this one so it's not long, and I will get that out to you guys. I'm sorry if you guys were expecting part 2 and this wasn't it, but last flap I did was when I was upset because the radio that I got off eBay was all broken and the guy was screwing me over. So I figured I'd give you a flap that was more of an informational flap instead of a bitching flap. So hopefully I didn't bore you guys too bad. But I'll finish up this one, and I'll throw a couple of pictures on there of my stash of boxes that I had to consolidate and other stuff. Anyway, if you're not a subscriber and I didn't run you off with this video, please hit your like and subscribe button to become one of my viewers. I'd appreciate it. For my existing viewers, thank you so much. And I hope everybody's staying well. And I thank you for watching Greg's Vintage Workshop, where we're trying to restore history one piece at a time. Have a good day.